What is up, jabronis? JJ back here with Holden, this time doing a little bit of a March Madness preview. Obviously, we have the whole bracket now. So we'll talk on some of the games and, preview some matchups we like, some matchups that are worth exploiting, maybe where some lines move. But Holden, way to carry the show today with the little two-team money line parlay.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way we do it. We moneyline parlay college basketball games. People tell us not to do it. I don't know why I'm talking about me and somebody else and everybody else, but I'm just saying, why don't we do moneyline teasers in basketball, JJ? Tell me why. Because all I know is winning from it.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's going to be minus expected value. First of all, you obviously know how big your parlay is. You'll need multiple of those to come through. And then ultimately, they just never pay the odds they're supposed to. Now, granted, if you find value in them, sure. But, those buildings in Vegas are as tall as they are because people love making parlays. But ultimately, in short samples, of course, these can always hit. And not to say that every single parlay has no value, but most don't.
Again, tell me why it's a bad idea, though. You haven't really given me anything specific.
I think in the long term, numbers wise, the bets are unwise. Speaking on ROI specifically, because let's take for an example the bet you made today, paying about plus 130. I would say the true odds on your bet would have been closer to about plus 190.
190?
The true odds, yeah, 100% on a two-teamer. But again, remember the books shaded out. Remember the books are accustomed to paying out two-team parlay at a little under 3-1, when realistically it should pay 4-1. So now when you're compounding two teams together that should have even greater odds, they're able to, kind of like conceal an extra edge in their favor, 20 cents here, 30 cents there. Meanwhile, turns around and then, like I said, long-term speaking, just from an ROI perspective, not
Don't do it. Don't do it long-term. But I will say this. I felt good about it this morning. It ended up paying off in overtime. That was great. You did a great job. You had 4 of your 6. Easily could have had some nice referee calls earlier, but that's in the past. No one cares about what we did, right? It's all about what we're doing right now. So before we get into this, I want to announce that hit me up on Twitter if you're not already, and I will help you find True TV, because it is that time of year where nobody knows where the fuck this channel is. Nobody watches this channel. I don't even know why it's still there. Good luck finding True TV. Looking forward to figuring out what the hell we can do with it. Stevie Boynton in there? Dude, how do we not get Stevie a link at some point in time during the show? Stevie's been hot with us. I mean, I don't know if he deserves money yet.
Stevie's partying in Vegas, though.
That's even better.
But I mean, let the guy live. I mean, you know what I mean?
Through that. Stevie, step it up, buddy. Do some work. He's working with me tomorrow. Aren't we doing a show like tomorrow or something? I don't know. Let's get into this here. I'll give you the one bet that I found that I already bet. And, I was really focusing on these West Coast, Western Conference of Big Sky, Mountain West, Pac-12. San Diego State, man. When this came out, it was San Diego State -2. There might have even been a -1 somewhere. But Syracuse is a borderline top, 40 team maybe? Where I think San Diego State got misseeded personally. I think they had a great win over Utah State in the conference tournament. It's probably because they haven't played anybody in a while. It's up to 2.5 now. I had it at 2. To me, this line should have been 4.5. Personally, I don't know if you got a take on this game, but San Diego State was my first bet that I hammered. It just popped off the page to me.
Yeah, I do like it, and I do think that line's going to steam more. My only concern there is, and San Diego State, a team I just backed in favor of an over against Wyoming. It seemed like Wyoming figured that team out. And if I'm Jim Boeheim, I'm looking at tape, and I'm using that exact same strategy. Once you pull out those two shooters from San Diego State, that offense is completely anemic.
Yeah.
Now, Syracuse can't shoot either, but I'm interested to see how I'm interested to see how Boeheim game plans that game, because like I said, Wyoming just seemed to have the recipe. Just as long as as long as those two guys aren't shooting shots, San Diego State's a very poor, inefficient team offensively. At least it appeared. But again, their track record all year, they've been great. They've been great beyond the arc. But again, a lot of it comes from those two main players, Mitchell and I always forget the other guy's name. But ultimately, interested to see it. And this is a Jim Boeheim team. Remember, a lot of people rode this team out a few years back in the tournament. They didn't even belong, and they went to the Final Four, I believe. So interested to see how it plays out. But yes, I do think you're right. I think you'll beat this team. I think San Diego State probably sees an extra point or two before that tips off.
Yeah, and I think that's really what it is. San Diego State, you're backing because they're defensive juggernaut. I mean, they're going to just shut you down. And when a line is that close, 1 or 2 points, I mean, how do you not hit that? So that stuck out to me. I don't think it'll change as the week goes on. JJ, I want to hear, first of all, what popped out to you when you looked right at the numbers? Give me a couple of games, one game, or maybe nothing. Totals. I haven't even really looked at the totals yet, JJ. For me, it's been all about the sides. The run that I'm on has been the sides. So help me out if you got any totals too.
Yeah, so total that pops out for me currently sitting at about 143.5, pending the book, 143 at even some. Oklahoma State Liberty. Yeah, I know this line's seen some steam south, but to me, this game plays into the 150s. Oklahoma State's going to run. I know Liberty is accustomed to playing slow when you look at their advanced numbers and their very slow offense. This team absolutely fires from three, though. And Oklahoma State cannot – their transition defense is awful. So if I'm Liberty and I'm planning how I'm going to beat this team, I'm going to be taking those transition three-pointers. And for me, there should be points that pile up there. Now, I know that, like I said, there's been some steam under, and I get it. You know, if you think Liberty's really going to take the air out of the ball, problem is Oklahoma State just runs. And now they got a few days off, but in between the big tournament, this team is just a nut over a team, and Liberty's not the type of team you can leave open from beyond the arc. So ultimately, man, to me that pokes out.
What do you got it at?
No pun intended.
142?
I see 142. It depends the book. It's so weird. There's some books that have like 146. Some books have 142. Like I think as of a few right before the show, BetMGM was still 146.5, but DraftKings is 142.5.
Really? I mean, that's where I'm on. I just banged it. I mean, I'm going to take this is a very important window we're in here for college basketball too, aren't we? For the tournament. Like, to me, this is a very important window because you're going to get really wrong numbers sitting up here. I think the San Diego State. And I just had a conversation on another show. I had a guy who's in his 20s. He looks at me and goes, man, no one's going to back UCLA. No one's going to get with UCLA. Is it UCLA, Michigan State, I think? And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? Old people like me, all they remember was UCLA. And people still think UCLA is still a great college basketball program. They're also out there in Los Angeles where, Vegas, Los Angeles, right? People are going to back UCLA. So wait on that. That's a bad number, though. I like your thoughts on that one. What other games? Is that the only one?
At least off the top. I mean, I will say this, that the SEC, I've said this in the last few shows. I mean, I know I value the Big Ten pound for pound with all the teams, but the SEC, to me, has been the best conference all year in general because their out-of-schedule conference has been better than all these other conferences. I think you could argue for some value on a bunch of SEC teams to start in this tournament. Now, will come to fruition. Obviously, a team like Bama's going up against Rick Pitino's Iona team. Arkansas's got to draw Colgate, which should be just an absolute track meet. Tennessee, I think, is a sub 10-point favorite against Oregon State, now 7.5. To me, there's some serious value, or should be some serious value on laying the wood with some of these SEC teams. Because again, this is a conference that I truly believe is the best conference, pound for pound, the best conference in all of college basketball. I know they don't have as many teams as the Big Ten, but pound for pound, the best conference.
Pound for pound, the best conference. Here's an interesting one. What about Oklahoma, Missouri? I circled this one too. I got to go find the line on it because I don't have it right now. And if you it's
Missouri +2.
Missouri +2. All right. So this is really, it's a fascinating matchup. If you're looking at a total, right? I think Oklahoma can get into the 70s against this Tigers thing, right? But the problem is that the Tigers might not score enough points. So I definitely can't bet the over there. Oklahoma's kind of played to their competition. If I'm betting Oklahoma in this game, JJ, it's because I don't think that Missouri's very good. That would be the reason why I would side with Oklahoma. Personally, I'm staying away from this game, but I think it's a really interesting one. And then the total Like Oklahoma to me is going to get their points. I just don't think Missouri, the more I'm talking this out with myself, I'm not sure Missouri can put up the points. This might be a side where I am going to side with Oklahoma.
Well, it's like I said that, ultimately I'm going to look to target SEC schools in these matchups. I just think that this is a game that potentially could see steam the other way. I think when you look at KenPom's got Oklahoma 39, Missouri 51. I think it's one of those games where you could see, steam come in at Oklahoma. I mean, obviously Missouri tries to get to the line a lot. Oklahoma doesn't foul. Oklahoma also doesn't turn the ball over. Missouri doesn't force turnovers. From a matchup perspective, I don't love it. But again, I just feel like the SEC is such a dominant conference, especially against the Big 12. But I'll sit and wait on that one specifically.
Anything else that stand out to you? Because for me, Loyola Chicago, Georgia Tech, and then Illinois kind of has to face one of these two teams. I'll be honest with you, I'm very disappointed with where they put Loyola Chicago. I knew they were going to be a number 8. It's one of the best defensive teams that you're going to see. A team that already has a pedigree, made a little run recently. They've still got the sister, Mary Jane, whatever her name is. And then they got to face a hot Georgia Tech team, though, that just ran through the ACC. So you tell me. I mean, I personally, if I'm Illinois, I'm not thrilled. They're the best team here, but that's not a fun 8-9 matchup to have to watch. I'd much prefer to play Georgia Tech than Loyola Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, we have quite a lot of good 8-9 matchups, but definitely bad draw for both Loyola and Georgia Tech, because I'd argue Loyola could have drawn any other 9 seed and they would have been okay with that. And I would argue Georgia Tech could have drawn any other 8 seed and they would have been okay with that. The fact that they end up drawing each other is very unfortunate. And the fact that they're both going to be Illinois' next matchup is also unfortunate, because that's quite a tough path. And if you look at Illinois' side, I mean, you want to talk about a bad draw. I mean, whether they face West Virginia or Houston down the line, or, whether it winds up being Tennessee, Oklahoma State, or if Liberty makes some noise, I'd be hard-pressed to believe Oregon State's going to make noise in this tournament. Could happen, but ultimately, again, goes back to my SEC roots. But yeah, Loyola Chicago, that's a scary team. I mean, if you're Illinois, you'd probably
What team? Is it just
Loyola Chicago?
Loyola, yeah. Loyola.
Did I say Loyola?
Very good.
Loyola. Loyola Chicago should be.
See, you cannot say Loyola. That's all right. There's a lot of words I can't say. I just wanted to make sure that I heard that right. Good job out of you. It is. We're going to call it Loyola from this show. From now on, Loyola Chicago, you motherfuckers. All right, keep going.
Loyola. For me, it's a bad matchup for Illinois if that comes to it. Now, not to say that Illinois will lose that matchup, but Illinois is going to look to speed things up, and Loyola's definitely going to slow things down in that one if they win. But yeah, just a real bad draw for Georgia Tech and Loyola in that one.
So I still want to defer to you here on some games and some things that you just keep standing out. But you were on Ohio yesterday, I believe, correct? So, and you won. I think it was +4. They ran through the conference there. They're the 13 seed against Virginia. You must know this because the last couple of bets I've made on teams coming off of COVID, you bet in the first half. And I think I bet against SMU. It was the game against SMU. And guess what? SMU had a tough half. Okay. Ultimately, they covered in the second half too, which was awesome. But here we have a situation again with Virginia probably taking 2 weeks off, at least 2 weeks off. I don't know how much they've been able to practice. Does Ohio have enough firepower to take down Virginia in the first half?
I mean, it could. I mean, ultimately, this is a very confident team, nothing to lose. They're led by the star kid Preston, who potentially has got NBA talent. And look, if you've watched this team play, they blew through Toledo. They blew through Buffalo. This team got hot at the right time. Now, Virginia this year, their biggest struggle, believe it or not, has been on the defensive end, which isn't something you're used to hearing about this squad. But defensively, they've definitely had some hiccups now. We don't even know who's going to be out of this game on the Virginia side. You'd figure there's going to at least be 1 or 2 players out, right? Whether it's, a big name or not. Because ultimately it was the Marquette transfer kid that got this party started, right? With them. What's his name? I can't think of.
I just watched them. You know, I just watched them for the first time in that championship game. You got me on them. So.
Oh no, I was talking Virginia's COVID issue because they're going to be missing. They're going to be missing. I think at least 1 or 2 people. I just don't know how. We just don't know the names yet. But I know that when I said the Marquette transfer, the kid on Virginia, I can't remember his name. The big guy that shoots the threes. Hauser. I think Hauser was one that got all this started for them.
Damn, Hauser.
So you would figure he should be good to play, but I don't know if other people got it on Virginia. You would figure, though, they won't have 100% of a lineup. You would figure. But either way, again, my concerns with Virginia has been them on the defensive side, and Ohio's looked as good offensively as they've looked all season. It definitely upset potential, but it's always tough to question a team like Virginia losing to a team like Ohio. But, ultimately, yeah, I would think Ohio's live for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that was one. And then on the other side, or really it's in the same bracket. It's Kansas and Eastern Washington. And here we go with Kansas again. They've been off now. It'll be, I don't know, when did they learn of that? So it won't be quite as long, maybe 10 days, 10, 11 days. But I don't know if they've been able to practice. I don't know what they've been able to do. Eastern Washington made a nice little run to their conference tournament. Not too concerned about any individuals on that team, but this is more of a broad thing just from the, just from seeing the trends here. And you and I are not big trends guys, but once you start finding something and keep hammering it, works out for you, I'm going to keep going back to it. So Eastern Washington against Kansas, I mean, maybe it's more of a total here, but I think Eastern Washington is another team that we have to look at in the first half at the very least. Yeah, just for the sole fact that Kansas is having some issues.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know. Eastern Washington, are they a team that play super fast? I think they play super fast, right?
Yeah, super fast. Yeah.
So my only issue with a team like this going up against a team like Kansas is on a per possession basis, when you're going to speed up possessions, it's going to favor the superior team. Kansas is definitely that. Now, Eastern Washington, I mean, if they're going to be able to stick their threes and get to the free throw line, sure, it'll be great. But I mean, you're talking a huge mismatch physically going up against Kansas. Now,
let me tell you this real quick. If David McCormick's out, though, this Kansas team lost a huge presence in the middle. He's the comeback player of the year. He's the most improved player in the Big 12.
What's the news? What's the news? Does it look like he's?
Well, it's up in the air, and that's my whole thing. I'm not going to bet this game. The problem is that you're going to have to be on Twitter the second it pops out and then get to the book and bet which side you think it is. Okay. But, Kansas is a team I'm a little concerned about. This year's Kansas team beforehand, and now they could be missing, McCormick. Not feeling good about him.
Yeah, the McCormick's a big one. And one matchup I also wanted to bring up is Winthrop and Villanova. I know we briefly chatted on this as well. This is not a great matchup for Villanova. I know you would think that's kind of crazy. Winthrop can score, and the biggest problem with Nova since Gillespie went down has been their ability to score consistently. If Winthrop is making their shots, I mean, Nova's not going to be hanging around in this tournament long at all. I know it's a 12-5 seed, and you see for a 12-5 seed, it's a big line. But, man, I mean, Winthrop is not a team to play around with. If they're making their shots, I don't want to say Villanova's drawing dead, but they just offensively haven't looked the same since Gillespie's been out. Something to look at in that game as well.
So here's a game that I just think on the surface looks like it could play out to be a really tight one, and that's Maryland and Yukon. It's the 7-10. So Yukon's back in. What is it, 2016? The announcers were saying the last time these guys had gotten the tournament. I can't believe it's been that long. My God, that's a really long time. You can get this line, Yukon -2 or Maryland +2.5. Again, these lines are just all over the place right now. Before we get into the breakdown of this game, can you talk about that? You have to shop at different books, because I've never seen it. You won't see it in other sports where we're 3 and 4 points difference depending on the book. I think it's starting to stabilize now, but it was nuts about 45 minutes ago.
Yeah, it'll definitely stabilize. But for these first few hours, you'll definitely find books that have lines that are about potentially 3, sometimes even 4 points different. Because again, you're gonna get a lot of these big steam moves And, these books are going to move based on some of their better players. And if they see enough action from certain type of players, they're going to move on it. So ultimately, maybe some books will isolate themselves temporarily, but for the most part, it should calibrate, we'll say, the next few hours. But yeah, strike while the iron's hot. I mean, if you're somebody who likes to chase steam, I mean, I guess technically you could use that to your advantage, pull up all the sports books, look for it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, bet good numbers, bet lines you like. And if you want to bet, favorable, if you want to bet like bets that are probably going to be popular, get them early. Otherwise, wait, let steam move games, and then you can fade the steam late. But ultimately, yeah, it's a good point. There's a lot of different books that are offering up a lot of different numbers on the same exact games.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. So let's get into this Maryland Yukon game. Want to get your thoughts on this? Yukon's back. Maryland is a team that had a couple big wins this year, but they've been a little up and down too. By the way, this is right? Yukon, Maryland. Yeah, the 7-10, and the winner of this one probably faces Arizona, although I think the Iona Gales fans out there would disagree a little bit. But do you have any side on this game? It just looks like one of those where the line is actually right. It's a 7-10 matchup. Neither team really blows me away. Anything with this game?
Yeah, I mean, the line's probably about correct. Connecticut should be favored here. Should they be favored by 2 or 3? I guess would depend who you ask. But I mean, with Book Night returning to this team, they've looked so good. Their first true hiccup was really against Creighton, where they almost won. And remember, this was a team that absolutely dominated Georgetown. If they were to at least beat Creighton there, they probably beat Georgetown, because they beat them twice with Book Night over the last few weeks of the season, and beat them pretty badly as well. So ultimately, this line's probably correct. I do think Yukon is definitely a team that's coming in here with enough steam. I know they didn't win their conference tournament, but with Book Night, this team's offense specifically looked completely different, complete 180 from when he was out, back in, out, or out, in, out, back in. Team looked completely different with him in there, and they'll have him for this tournament. So, got to watch out for that team.
Yeah, and then Connecticut's big, though, if I'm correct. They might have a little size advantage here. They really don't have a great resume, to be honest with you. I don't think UConn had a great resume, but they got in, and they got in as a 7. So congratulations to them. Way to go. Abilene Christian, they're playing Texas. Did you have anything on Abilene Christian? I feel like it's a team that people want to back here that I will not touch, because Texas is just a much more talented team, and I think they're definitely good for one win in this tournament.
There'll be turnovers in that one. Abilene, which is the most in the country. Texas forces a ton of turnovers themselves. There will be turnovers in that game. Abilene's biggest problem is they foul a ton. And against a superior team in Texas, you would figure Texas is going to live at the free throw line in this game. But look, Abilene, they shoot threes. So if they're sticking them, to me, it's a decent matchup for them. I mean, that Southland Conference is filled with teams that love to run. Texas is not exactly a slow team by any means. And Abilene is very underrated defensively, but and they move the ball pretty well on offense, but they're probably going to have their hands full with Texas here. But look, I know Abilene's usually that, sexy team to back in these tournaments. They're well coached. They usually have a really good stud player, but this year they're a little more separate. I mean, I know Colton Cole's, been a good player for them, but they're a little more well-rounded this year than most. But yeah, for me, it'd be a tough spot to even back a quote-unquote sexy dog in this game versus Texas.
Would you back a number 1 seed with a big line? Baylor -26 over Hartford. Gonzaga line isn't even out there. Illinois -22 over Drexel. Michigan, they don't have a line yet because they don't have their opponent either, just like Gonzaga. But do you see yourself backing a team that's going to be favored by 20 or more points?
I mean, you see this often in these tournaments at the first round. Like, you could probably tell just on watching the game in the beginning if a team belongs in the same court as the other one. That's the biggest problem, right? These lines could be 20, but they still could be 15, 20 points off, because sometimes you just don't know how good or how bad some of these mid-majors are. Like, for instance, a team like Drexel, I mean, they could get run out of the gym the game could be over in the first half. It could be they could be trailing by 30 in the first half. Or maybe they catch a not so motivated, 1 seed. But ultimately, I'll tell you this, I don't really ever take the points with a 16 seed, if that makes any sense. Occasionally I'll lay the points with 1 seed, but I don't, to me, it's not fun in a tournament game like that watching a 1 seed doing alley hoop dunks in the second half, up 40. It's not fun. I don't know if you've witnessed it before, but if you back some of these teams that don't even belong in the same court as some of these 1 seeds, it is not fun while the reserves are doing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like backing a 1 seed though, you're backing a team that's a 25-point favorite. Like Gonzaga, to me, you almost need to make them 30-point favorites for me not to back them in this round 1 game against some dog crap team. Seriously. The rest of the teams, though, I don't know if I feel as much conviction in Illinois in a blowout and Baylor in a blowout. And maybe that's – I don't know why that is, to tell you the truth. Maybe it's just because I think so highly of Gonzaga, but I feel a little uncomfortable laying 30 points, 25 points even.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't blame you. It's probably just a spot I'll stay away from. I usually do anyway, but no, you couldn't pay me to bet some of these dogs in these spots. They could all cover. I mean, I could really care less. They're not going to be a spot to buy back.
Guys in the chat, what up? Hey, Kegger, how are you, buddy? You got any questions? You want us to break down a game? Throw it in the chat, and we'll happily do that. I have no problem. As a matter of fact, I'm looking forward to doing that. So if you got any questions, things you want to talk about. Do you have any thoughts on a couple play-in games? Wichita State and Drake. A lot of people surprised that Drake made it. Wichita State, nice little conference run. They found themselves there. And then on the other side, we got Michigan State against UCLA. UCLA is what, like a top 45 team in KenPom. Michigan State, 2 reasons they're in there. They played in the best conference this year, and they got Tom Izzo as their head coach. And I firmly believe that. They were a bubble team, right? Michigan State, UCLA. Any thoughts on that game, whether it be a side or a total? I don't even have totals here on that one.
It'll be a game I stay away from.
Okay.
I like what UCLA has done this year, and I know that Michigan State's definitely going to see steam here. I wouldn't even be shocked if Michigan State closed at almost 3, primarily because people love Izzo this time of year. Feels like they coach right. But look, UCLA is well coached too. It's a team that plays really hard defense. And look, when they're sticking their threes, because UCLA kind of can get a little live and die with the 3. But under Mick Cronin, this team is super sound, or more sound than you would anticipate them being. Because UCLA just doesn't have exactly a whole lot of defensive bodies, but they still play really well. They slow the game down a lot. I know that they ended the year losing 4 straight. But look, this is still a Mick Cronin coach team. You'd expect them to be prepared. It's a pretty bad matchup, in my opinion, for Michigan State, who could have drew a bunch of other bubble teams here. And instead they have to get through UCLA instead of somebody else who KenPom just loves this team, all things considered. But all in all, it'll be a game I definitely stay away from. I don't really want any part of 2 well-coached teams in a game to advance into the bracket.
I actually really looked at this game big time. Christopher wants us to talk about Texas Tech and Utah State. What do we have for a line on this game? Texas Tech, Utah State, -4.5. So, all right, so Texas Tech, 4.5, 5-point favorites in this game. Did a lot of work on Utah State this last week. The thing that's interesting is that Utah State likes to turn the ball over a lot. They are a tremendous defensive team, but they turn the ball over a ton. And then you got Texas Tech, a team in the Big 12 that I've seen a lot of too, that forces a ton of turnovers. I think that could be a little problem here for Utah State. That being said, I like Utah State as a team. I thought they put up a hell of a fight in their conference championship game, ultimately a loss. They were on the bubble, and they actually ended up making in there. Chris Beard's a terrific head coach. Texas Tech it's an upper quadrant team in the Big 12. I don't want to bet against Utah State, 5 points, but I must say, JJ, the turnovers from Utah State and the way Texas Tech plays makes me kind of feel like this is just a bad matchup for Utah State. Do you have any thoughts on this game at all?
Yeah, so, I mean, I like the Mountain West. I mean, I think a team like Boise got snubbed. Nevada didn't get in, right? I don't see them either. So San Diego State, this was a good conference this year. I'd argue the Mountain West was as good of a conference that I've seen from them in years. They had arguably 3 or 4 different bubble teams between Boise, Nevada, Utah State, which seemingly Utah State was going to get in regardless. But even them, ultimately they draw a tough matchup here. I do think they're going to be outsized quite a bit by Tech. Look, two teams that play good defense. Utah State plays really good defense. But, of course, you question, right, the conference they play in. The Mountain West has been better than most years, but they're still not as good as a Power 5 conference, right? So you look at who Utah State played. I mean, did they even – okay, so they beat San Diego State twice. They lose to Boise twice, but beat Nevada twice. Overall, it'll be a stay away spot for me at 4.5. I could see why Utah State might draw some steam here, getting 4.5 in a game that maybe they're not getting enough respect in. It's a team that doesn't really foul either, and they're really good on the offensive glass and defending the offensive glass. You figure that's going to play a big part in this because Texas Tech is really good on the offensive glass. So, ultimately something's got to give, though. Texas Tech's also quite handsy fouling, but Utah State doesn't really draw fouls. From a matchup perspective, Utah State actually doesn't match up that poorly with this team. But overall, again, it's still a mid-major going up against a Power 5 school. And look, Ken Pom loves this Utah State team. I mean, has them ranked 40. So, with that alone, you'd say that there's value on the 4.5 with Texas Tech coming in at 23. But ultimately, I would it'll be a stay away spot for me.
I'm glad you asked this one, Kevin Clunan. LSU minus 1.5 versus St Bonaventures. So another team, the Bonnies, watched a lot of recently in the A10. They shoot threes very well. Okay, they are spectacular. Defensively, not guarding the three, they are spectacular. And they are spectacular at shooting 3-point shots as well. And then you look at LSU. I know you got LSU here. Cam Thomas is a stud. That's great. I mean, they were one of the hotter teams in the nation before they lost in the semifinals in their conference. So this is going to be a tough one. I think people from name recognition alone, if they're just betting, are going to go back LSU. Not like LSU is a college basketball titan or anything like that. But I like what I saw out of St. Bonnie's during this little tournament run. I think this game stays close. I just don't have a lean to a side, JJ. Yeah,
so it's another one of those near pick'em SEC games. I think we have 3 of them, by the way. You got Missouri, Oklahoma, which is 2. You got Florida, Virginia Tech, which is 1. And then you got this game, which is 1.5. For me, again, these pick'em games where SEC schools are basically a pick'em, I'm more than likely just going to be backing the SEC schools. I know that St. Bonnie's had a great year, and Ken Pom actually has them ranked higher than LSU, which is why I think we might see some backward steam here in favor of the Bonnies. I think that the Bonnies may get some love here, get this back to a near pick'em. But ultimately, to me, it's all going to be about LSU in transition because the Bonnies in a half-court sets, offensively and defensively, are definitely better. But LSU moving up and down the floor might be a little rough for this Bonnies team who hasn't seen tempo like this. And look, LSU, we know what they are, right? When they get hot, they get hot. And they just almost upset a Bama team who's looked as good as they've looked all year. So ultimately, again, for me to be another lean on an SEC school.
Stevie Boynton's our DFS college hoops guy, and then he's been in our Discord a whole bunch. Is this a free show again?
Free show.
Hey, before we do anything from Stevie Boyd, come on, get him to sign up here. This is the big week, man. They're getting all this information for free. Let's go. Tell them to sign up and win some more money. How do they do it?
Run pure bets, and if you wanna wait and leave your dick in your hand until Thursday when the games, or Friday when the games start, or even midweek, sure. But ultimately we'll have NBA. We'll have NBA all week. Sign up for the month. Best 25 off. You get 25% off. It'll be $45 for the whole month. You'll basically get all of March Madness, and you'll get dipped into baseball as well for $45. I mean, ultimately that'll include all our content, Discord access. Ultimately expect multiple picks from me. And then in tennis this week, I do expect to have quite a few looks in tennis. Is this the 25th? No. Next week is the Miami Open for tennis. But ultimately, expect some tennis plays from me earlier in the week if you sign up today. Otherwise, Thursday, Friday, we'll get dipped into college basketball, and it'll be a fun weekend. Definitely. We'll have plenty of shows, too. I know on the DFS end and the betting end, plenty of content for college basketball.
You think I hit Justin Thomas as the winner at the Players' Championship at 20-1 without a subscription to Run Pure Bets? Are you kidding me? You know, Mitch Schneider, as they call him, Snyder, our PGA guy, has hit 5 of the last 7 tournament winners. Think about that for a minute. You know how difficult that is? 5 of the last 7. So you're not just getting college hoops. I mean, Big T won $1 million on the DFS side, but we're betting that too. We're betting stuff. MMA, Just do it. It's $15 for a week. Just try dip your toe in the water. That's less than the unit you're betting in all likelihood. But Stevie is on his way back to DC from Vegas, and he wants to know about Virginia Tech and Florida. And Florida, to me, I got no gauge on Florida. Maybe you do. Virginia Tech, I can talk a little better too. But once, who was it? Keontae Johnson was their big guy. Once he went out, they were kind of like, Florida's not going to do much. And they bounced back, and they've got some really good wins against really good teams. So it's not like they're jabronis. I just feel like they've got a low floor and a high ceiling is what they are. And if Trey Mann isn't just completely crushing his threes, they're in trouble.
Yeah, so the good part with that matchup in particular is Florida's biggest problem, especially down the stretch of the year in SEC play, has been turning the ball over. The good part is Virginia Tech doesn't really force turnovers at all. Florida's pretty good in every other aspect offensively. Defensively, though, they can be had on the offensive glass. Virginia Tech's not great on the offensive glass, and they do foul a bit. Virginia Tech doesn't draw a whole lot of contact. So overall, I'd argue it's probably a worse matchup for Tech than it is for Florida. But I do get your point that Florida has looked a bit different, but it's not like Virginia Tech's been kind of blowing things away recently either. I mean, over their last 5 games, they have 2 wins. And that's against Miami and Wake. Outside of that, this team down the stretch hasn't looked good, and they had I wouldn't call it a bad loss to North Carolina, but almost a double-digit loss versus them in the conference tournament. And overall, for me, again, it'll probably be a spot where I just want to back the SEC school in a close game.
Amazing.
But we'll see. I think these are the games that are going to be the most fun because you give you a good radar truly on how good these conferences are, because you got a lot of these middle of the pack teams going up against each other in different conferences. Should be a lot of fun.
I'm trying to find, do you bet many futures at this point?
No.
That's my first question for you. Do you bet futures?
I often do. This year in particular, I did not. I felt like there was a little too much parity with COVID. And this year we're also a little top heavy, right? So between Gonzaga, Michigan, and Baylor. Now Michigan loses livers. Baylor looks nothing like they used to defensively. So Gonzaga, now you could argue you're super top heavy. Gonzaga's what, like plus 260, which is like the lowest the tournament a team's been to win the tournament in like years. So for me, futures market, I'd argue where there's value, potentially value deeper into the futures market, maybe into those teams that are in between 5 and 15. But other than that, this was not a year I really wanted to back futures. Also, remember, you're one COVID bug away from the team virtually being eliminated. So it just wasn't a market wasn't a market I really wanted to tap into this year in particular.
It was really interesting looking at the bracket reveal, and they said replacement number 1 team, replacement number 2 team. They got 4 replacement teams just in case this COVID comes down. But how is that working? Like, let's just say Gonzaga wins and gets into the Elite 8, but they got the COVID. You're going to put a replacement team in there? I don't even know how that works, JJ. So I'll be reading up on, again, this is all new to everybody, but that to me is going to be the wildest thing too. What if a team is in the Elite 8, gets COVID? What are you doing? Does the team get a free pass to the Final Four?
Yeah, it's true.
Or do you throw a scrub team like Louisville in there that hasn't played for a week and a half to try and take out the number 1 team in the nation if that were to happen?
Yeah,
How's that happen?
It's true. It's true. I don't know how exactly they're going to do it, but yeah, it's there's definitely a lot to unravel there, especially if a few of these teams, if this goes down like dominoes and a few teams end up being impacted. Yeah, for sure. Hopefully that's
all
not
right. Any more questions? We'll take those. Hit the like button. That'd be nice too. If you do that, we would love it. Bracket locks Tuesday, no replacements. Tuesday or Thursday. All right. So what Joey's saying then is if one of those teams is kicked out by Tuesday, another team gets in there and the non-COVID team wins. That's it. They just move on. Good job, guys. Why don't you guys hop? What the hell is Joey Work doing? He should be hopping on with us too. Well, he's at it. Huh?
No, I'm saying that's what it looks like, right? Ultimately, the Tuesday team, if the brackets lock on Tuesday, yeah, it is what it is.
So let me just read out some more lines to you, and you say pass or go for it, or maybe you got one that you like somewhere. Oregon VCU, Oregon minus 5.5. Anything?
That's an ugly game. To me, especially with what I saw from VCU today, this team is so reliant on Highland staying on the court. And, To me, that's the game plan. Just let Highland get the ball. If you're on the defensive end, just put guys that are willing to sit in front of the circle, in front of the restricted area, taking charges. Highland was just reckless today with the basketball. And when he's off the court, this VCU team, I mean, just watch tape. When he's off the court, this offense is completely anemic. So interested to see if he can stay on the court for 40 minutes. This should be a good game throughout. But if he's doing any type of foul trouble, or if his shot's off, if his game's off, VCU will probably get run out of the gym.
No doubt about it. I like it. Any other games that are standing out to you? This San Diego State Syracuse game, it opened at 2. It's sitting here at 2.5. I'd be shocked if it stayed there. It's got to be in the 3s around 4. If not, maybe I'll just dip in. I'll double dip later in the week. Oregon State, Tennessee. Oregon State getting hot, getting the 12 seed. Tennessee -8.5. You're the SEC guy though, so you're taking that. Did you have a side on Loyola Chicago, Georgia Tech, or did we just discuss it?
No, I mean, I don't want to bet. I mean, Georgia Tech's as hot as they've been all year, and Loyola is not a team I want to. A team I don't want to fade. So it'll be a stay away spot for me.
Such a quick learner. Well, good. I've gotten everything out of my system that I want to get out. You let me know if you got anything out.
Yeah, one little more piece of information. I know this won't be an easy bet to make, and I know this goes back to the 1 seed, 16 seed stuff. But Baylor, since their COVID return, if you've been betting team totals over against Baylor, you would be 7-0. They go up against Hartford, who will need to score 58 points to go over their team total. Again, Baylor, since returning from COVID, 7-0 in giving up opposing team totals over. Defensively, this team has made a 180. It's a low number. I know Hartford. The problem is Hartford's probably going to slow this game down. But if this tempo gets a little better, Baylor's defense has been very forgiving against. So just a little bit of information.
Fascinating, because they came in as a defensive juggernaut, a defense, and teams have exploited them as the season went on. And really, they have shown spurts of being the same team that they were pre-COVID, but I don't think they've been nearly as consistent.
Definitely not on the defensive end.
Yeah. Oh, Twatty. What up, Twatty?
What's up, Twatty?
Man crush on Texas. Okay. Well, I think they'll have a battle getting out of the first round. We'll see how far they go. We got Yukon, guys that are on Yukon, Alabama versus Baylor championship game. Pick it. Come on. Let's do that before we go. Let's just throw some shit against the wall here. Championship game. Who is it?
I mean, I have to look through. If you have your thoughts, can you give them first, and I'll give you mine in about a minute.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, listen, Gonzaga. The chances are, I mean, if you take the field, you got better chances to going up against Gonzaga, but I absolutely just love this team. They're the best team I've seen in at least a decade. And I'm sorry that I'm going to sit here and, pound chalk and everything like that. But the other side of things, I would have said Illinois with a lot of conviction, but that Loyola Chicago team, if they can get past Georgia Tech, I think they will make it slow and disgusting and ugly, and they're probably not going to have a great answer inside. But that is a well-coached team and a team that plays enough defense that scares me off. I'm serious when I say this, scares me off of that. Kelvin Sampson in Houston is a team that I will circle that could come out of the bottom of that bracket there if it's not Illinois. Because look, who else is there? West Virginia, San Diego State, Oklahoma State. Illinois should have the path there. I'll go Houston and Gonzaga in a 1-2 matchup. Yeah, I'm doing it. How about you?
Okay. I like Bama to make the championship game. So for them to get to the championship game, they'd have to go through Michigan and Gonzaga. But to me, I've watched this Gonzaga team play quite a bit this year, and what does rub this team the wrong way is when a team can run at their pace and can score at their pace. That's Alabama. Ultimately, Alabama's going to have to be sticking their threes, though, but this team is deep. They run a deep bench. They have a bunch of guys that can shoot the three ball. This could be a team that could rattle Gonzaga at least a little bit. Now, granted, Alabama's going to have some tougher matchups before that, or tough matchups before that as well. But if that game comes to it, yeah, I'm going to call Bama to upset there. And as far as the other side of the bracket, I think Arkansas, Ohio State. I think the winner of that matchup, assuming they both play each other, I think that winner gets into the Final Four. it's just going to be a matter of who, because to me, they're a bad matchup for one another. But as a 2 or 3 seed, I think either of them can beat Baylor. They're too good offensively. And like I said, I have my question marks about that Baylor team defensively. And Purdue, I mean, I don't really consider them much. And again, Nova's a bit degraded with some injuries. On that other side, on the bottom, so Illinois I really like a lot, but it's like we've said, their path to the Final Four is quite a big one. Now, ultimately, that path could better prepare them for the Final Four if they get there. But it's quite a tough road for them. So ultimately, I would probably, I mean, at first glance, I'd probably have Houston getting to the Final Four out of that side. I just love what Houston does up and down the floor. Well coached, and they have a good amount of leadership as well. Again, Illinois is super talented, but they're just going to have tough matchup after tough matchup to get into. Look, they're going to have to beat Drexel. Okay, fine. So they'll run over them, but they're going to have to play either a slow, grinded out game with either Tech or Loyola, right? And then potentially they'll either have to play another grinded out game with San Diego State or a Blaze type game with Oklahoma State. And then it's either going to be West Virginia or Houston, which is just going to be another juggernaut of a matchup. Ultimately, yeah. So for me, Bama, Gonzaga, Arkansas, or Ohio State, whoever wins that 2-3 matchup, and then Houston, with Bama winning it all.
You already got a couple picks up there.
Yeah.
I'm looking at our bet sheet right now. I'm telling you right now, people, make sure you throw your bets in right now. I like it. Now, hold on a second. Yeah. Here we are. We got all 3 of your bets are up there. And it's not the one bet that I had either. So awesome. Good job.
Thank you.
Very quick to hit those lines. If you have not signed up yet, you're welcome. Tell them one more time how to sign up. So I'm going to go throw one of these picks in right now, this Virginia-Ohio game.
Yeah, Run Pure.
Because I was leaning toward that. Now you got a conviction. I'll take it.
RunPureBets.com. Code BETS25 off. Get you 25% off for the first week or month, whichever one you prefer. Again, you sign up for the week, month, you'll get the whole entire month of March Madness or the whole first week of March Madness, whichever you prefer. And then we got baseball season right around the corner. Me and Joey Work will be doing work in baseball. But ultimately, college basketball has been good.
Hey, me too. Don't you forget me. Just because I'm a silly host and I don't know as much as you guys.
That's right.
Come on, man.
That's right. I haven't been a part of a full baseball season with you, Holden. So it'll be fun to do some shows with you. We'll probably do the Sunday preview every morning. We'll keep that going and maybe have Joey on with us as well. Or maybe you run a separate show with Joey. Either way, there'll be tons of content from us over at Run Pure. And again, Run Pure Bets. Also, like these videos. So whether I'm putting out the videos or Joey's putting them out or Jay's putting them out or spreading in Tyler's NBA, like these videos, guys, helps us out a lot. It means a lot to us as well. If you don't like them, I mean, whatever. But ultimately, if you like them, it does help us out a lot. And, and like I said, sign up for Run Pure Bets for our content and everything we're doing over there. Should be a fun few weeks ahead.
Did you see the move already on this Virginia-Ohio game? It's already down a point or a point and a half at a lot of places. When did you post that? What time did you post that? That's just how it works. But
I posted it like an hour and change ago.
Well, there you go. I mean, it changed a lot. A little's a lot, though. A little can be a lot. Okay, very good. All right, guys. That was it for the show. I hope you enjoyed everything. If you have any questions. What?
Just giving a quick shout to Yeezy, our boy.
Hello, Easy.
Marye Don Yeezy.
Oh, Stevie's on Thursday and Saturday. Yeah, I don't know when I'm working, Stevie. You'll be on with me, you, and Big T and JJ. We're all doing a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, and I did want to bring this up because you talked about Alabama. Do you know what Alabama's preseason national championship victory line was? Take a guess.
If I had to guess, I'd say
anytime now.
45 to 1.
That was it? 110 to 1.
Was it really that high? Jesus.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at a sheet here. Virginia Tech was 12,000 to 1. Gonzaga was 850 to 1. How badly would you take Gonzaga 850 to 1 right now? Huh? Illinois was 6K to 1, so 60 to 1. Alabama plus 11,000. Wow.
By the way, strawberry milkshake, only the alphas.
Not macchiato. Where'd you get it from? Is that Culver's? Where'd you get that? Carvel?
Carvel. I'm not sure if they're from around where you're from, Holden, but Carvel.
My first birthday, I remember I had a Fudgy the Whale. Don't mess with me and Carvel, dude. Although Cookie Puss so much better than Fudgy the Whale. Really is, because Cookie Puss, you can get a whole bunch of different flavors on the outside. Fudgy the Whale is just chocolate on the outside.
I can't.
I mean, what's your problem? You didn't like my breakdown of Carvel cakes here?
I thought it was below average.
Yeah. That's why I love you. That is just beautiful. All right, let's go lay some more bets down. If you are part of the Run Pure Sports team, check it out. Run Pure Bets, daily picks. JJ has his first 3 up. Shit, you know what? Throw mine down there too. I like it too. I like my bet enough to where I'll throw it on the sheet. Let's do it. He's JJ. I'm Holden. Sign up already. Just do it. Thanks for watching our show. Keep running pure. JJ, take us out, dude.
I was just about to end the show because you were ending it. But ultimately, yes, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll have multiple shows this week, so stay tuned for all that. A lot of NBA going on this week as well. And like I said, I'll be dabbling in tennis myself. But until Thursday or Friday, until we're back in college hoops, folks, gamble responsibly. Stay safe. And until then, Holden, we're out, right?
Later, dude.